So it was kind of up and down, for me in terms of how behind I could get, some of the music that Bruce was releasing. At the same point, I knew he was capable of making great records, which of course would come.
While the Springsteen community was reeling from the E Street Band breakup, Charlie was at ground zero for another rock and roll explosion, the Seattle grunge scene. In the early 90s, Charlie was editor of a bi-weekly music magazine in Seattle called The Rocket, which was experiencing phenomenal growth and attention. Charlie's interest in Backstreets began to wane.
I was trying to run a business. I had a couple employees that were working for Backstreets at that point, and I had a lot of other things going on in my life. I was running this other business where I had 30 employees and was trying to run a bi-weekly music magazine. And additionally, I was trying to write books and was drawn to other things. So I was absolutely overwhelmed, and thankfully I had good people working on Backstreets.
By 1993, Charlie was struggling to maintain both magazines simultaneously. Eric Flanagan and John Pont, Backstreet's two core employees, were doing a tremendous job handling the day-to-day operations of the magazine. But Charlie needed more support. Having recently moved to Seattle, Christopher Phillips sent out 2 resumes upon his arrival, one to Microsoft and one to Backstreets. Backstreets called first.
When Charlie hired me, he was honest with me, and he said that the other guy that they were seriously considering probably knew more about Bruce than I did. Because I went through a long period where I wasn't really that into Bruce anymore. Once I discovered REM and the Replacements, I was really into post-punk and some hip-hop and kind of all across the board. I don't think that served me well in terms of the minutia kind of questions that I was asked during the interview. And plus, Human Touch and Lucky Town were, the latest things on the radar, so that didn't do a lot to pull me back in. Charlie said, yeah, this other guy probably knows more of the ins and outs than you do, but to be honest, it's the only music he listens to, and you seem to have, a broader spectrum of stuff you're into, and that's more appealing, and that's the kind of person that we want working here. Now, granted, I'd shown plenty of Bruce fan cred, and I don't think you could do this job without knowing your stuff when it comes to Bruce. But yeah, I wouldn't have won a trivia contest against whoever this other guy was.
With a boulder on my shoulder, feeling kind of older, I trip the merry-go-round. With this very unpleasing sneezing and wheezing, the calliope crashed to the ground.
With Charlie's mentorship, Chris eventually began to take over many aspects of the magazine, which allowed Charlie to actively pursue his career as a preeminent rock author. And in 1998, Charlie said goodbye to Backstreets, and Chris took over the reins.
If I were going to be known as an author and have a sort of second act in my creative work, doing Backstreets just time-wise was not going to work with that. And thankfully at that point, Chris was working for the magazine, had a lot of enthusiasm for it, and eventually took the whole operation over. And it shifted. It had more of his personality and less of mine. That probably is a good thing, because I'm both very passionate, but at the same time kind of cranky about things. What kept it going was the community. The people I met through Backstreets, the Springsteen fans around the world, to a large extent became my friends, became, this close community. This is the pre-internet world, where to find somebody who likes the same kind of music you like is a rarity. You can't go on a Usenet group in 1982. And through Backstreets, I had people writing me from all over the world, and I met these people. And to a large extent, I continued doing the magazine at times when I probably should have stopped, mostly for those people, because that community was something that appreciated the magazine. And in some ways, it kept me connected to these people that became my close friends. And through that, I traveled the world. I met people in I got to see lots and lots of different kinds of cultures and other people that appreciated Springsteen that didn't even understand English. So the community of fans sort of became more important, truly, than Bruce Springsteen.
Coming up in part 2 of our series on Backstreets magazine, Christopher Phillips ushers Backstreets into the 21st century.
Our first internet presence was in '95. And at the time, Backstreets.com existed, and it was a porn site. So we couldn't be Backstreets.com, so instead we were AOL.com/members/something else. It was something ugly, but that's the way things were then.
And Backstreets finally lands the boss.
I got a call asking if I wanted to interview Bruce about Vote for Change. Obviously, this is the call I've been waiting for years and years and years. I kind of couldn't believe it. As it happened, the call came on the very day that we were moving our office from Washington, D.C. to Chapel Hill. So this is literally the last phone call I took in the D.C. office. We cleaned the whole thing out. The moving van was downstairs. We were sweeping up. We were about to unplug the phone when this phone call came. So the question was, can you interview him tomorrow? No, I can't. I'd love to. I really can't.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Boss. I'm Neil Van Hart. Please visit our website, beyondtheboss.com.
With the power and the glory, with the power and the glory, with the promise, with the majesty, with the mystery, with the ministry of rock and roll.